Paul told me on my first visit, and that was what I started with, how did this all begin? And he said that he worked for a power company in California, south of Los Angeles someplace, and that he was checking power lines, and his route was south of Los Angeles along the coast. And he said that he sat down on a beach, a rocky beach, one time. It was a cove, to eat a sandwich, and a man walked up to him, came around the big rock and walked up to him on the beach. He was a tall man. He was about 6.5 to 7 feet tall. He was quite a bit taller than Paul. And he introduced himself, gave him a name, which I don't remember. And Paul, he asked him where he's from, and he says, "Not from around here." He said, I come from elsewhere. He said, "If you will step this way with me, I'll show you my vehicle." And Paul walked around the rock with him, and there was a disc-shaped craft hovering a couple of feet off the water. And the guy took Paul by the hand and floated him to the ship. And he was introduced to some others inside, and he just remained there a very short time. He marveled at the fact that it wasn't in the water. They told him that they would see him again, and they let him out. He never saw him again in California, but a year or so later, he relocated to New Mexico, where he worked for the highway department there, and he was driving a survey truck, a pickup truck, and his particular job was to drive the back roads and look for damage to bridges, rural road bridges. And he carried a Polaroid camera to photograph any damage, because it's easier to show the picture than to try to describe it in a lot of words. And he was in this truck right here that he used with the Polaroid camera on the seat when he drove down this dry riverbed, and there's a lot of willows and scrub that grows in there, 30, 40 feet tall. And the road winds around among these, and he came around a turn, and there sat the craft in the sand. There's 3 women and 4 men outside. They invited him aboard, and he went aboard and looked around with them. They talked to him aboard there for about 15 minutes, telling him who they were and how they had been watching him for some time, that he had a special relationship with them, or they had a special relationship with him, that he had agreed to these relationships sometime much earlier, probably before birth. He didn't understand it that way. And that there was a reason why all this was happening to him. And they didn't have any children aboard. He asked them if they had them. They said yes, but not on this craft. That craft came from a larger craft elsewhere in space. They had been coming and going for some time. They said they had other contactees, but they never told him who the other contactees were, and we've never heard of any of them since. They did not encourage him to get any attention over this. They kept a low profile. They did contact him on a frequency of maybe 2 to 3 times a year, and they weren't here all the time. They would come and go, but when they were in the vicinity, they would often make contact with him.